Hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Wealth. My name is Paul Adams. I am the founder and CEO of Sound Financial Group, and I'm joined by Corey Shepard. Corey Shepard, who is the president of Sound Financial Group, the man that makes everything actually happen inside the enterprise, where I say, hey, this is a really good idea. And if Corey doesn't mobilize the team on it, that good idea isn't coming through.
Which is a nice filter for all of us. It's
all of the ideas I have. Yes. Everybody should have a partner like Corey, I think. Corey, I know everybody loves it when I schmooze on you so much, but we have kind of a fun episode today. Do you want to tell everybody about it, since I don't know anything about sports? I thought he was a rapper. I didn't know.
Great.
I thought he was in really good shape for a rapper.
I would not be surprised if he had actually done a guest appearance on some rap song. You know, if it's like featuring Chad Ochocinco. You know, like that wouldn't surprise me at all.
So this guy Ochocinco's a football player who had 85 is his number, and he changed his name to be Ochocinco. What was his name before? You said his name was like Chad?
Wait. Yeah, it's Chad. But let's 85. Sorry. I'm just
I don't know why he's giggling so much, but I want to know what the joke is.
It's like he was a rapper. I don't know anything about football. You've watched more football this season than I have, I'm pretty sure. Because
I'm an expert at watching the last 5 minutes of tight games.
Yeah.
That's it. I may have seen more games, but collective watch time, everybody's got me beat.
No, probably not me. That's the funny part. Even though I'm in a fantasy football league, I have been doing nothing football this year. I have little babies and pregnant wives. That kind of does it.
It kind of keeps your attention.
Before we dive into everything about the episode, just so we don't forget, this is a really fun one, and I think this is more accessible and just profound in hearing from someone who's been there and about some lessons we can learn about spending our money and why. If this is valuable to you, subscribe, share for anybody that you think might get a lot out of this. This is going to help a lot of people. I'm just really excited about this episode, and it's going to be a pretty quick one. So, Chad Ochocinco. Paul, you found this video. I think we should just start.
Found this video.
Watching.
We will, but I've got something for everybody. I am not going to play this video that we've been talking about. That's going to be super valuable until you like and subscribe and follow us on one of the social media platforms. LinkedIn's great. That's where we have the greatest amount of connections. Ask Paul Adams Wealth Podcast on Instagram. All that stuff's out there. I'll just wait until everybody subscribes, Corey, and then I'll be able to play the video. So this should be just 7 or 8 minutes. We'll just sit quietly. Well, just kidding. All right. All right, so let's get to it. I found this on LinkedIn. Special thanks to Jacqueline Campbell, founder and CEO of Alexander Legacy Private Wealth Management, a boutique mission-based lifestyle practice with a focus on legacy, philanthropy, and impact. If that's not a mouthful, I don't know what it is. But she posted this great little video of this guy, Chad Ochocinco. What does he play? It's football, but I mean, what position?
Yeah. He was a wide receiver.
Wide receiver, so he's fast. And listen to this interview with this guy. We're going to be stopping this a bunch.
He hasn't played since 2012, actually.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. So retired now, and sounds like retired successfully. Average lifespan of an NFL player is 3.5 years. We did that episode. This goes back quite a while, Corey. We did the episode on football players who get through that 3.5 years, and the vast majority of them that end up absolutely flat busted, both physically and financially, at the end of a lightning fast NFL career. And this guy sounds like he did a good job on the backside. So let's start. We're going to pause in and out of it here.
I want to make enough money I can fly private?
Yeah. Shh. I ain't flying private. Spirit. Put me on Spirit. Exit row. Window seat. That's all I need. Long as I get from point A to point B. I don't need private. Athletes more so. if you can get to a point in your career where your name becomes bigger than anything you can purchase, there's your value. Wow.
All right, let's pause there.
Yeah.
So one of the things I like the most, Corey, is him he didn't even say Southwest. He's like Spirit. Like the Greyhound of the skies. He is we fly out of this city on Tuesdays at 2:00 most weeks. Sometimes we don't leave till 5, and we don't come back for 4 weeks, but we leave weekly. Like that's Spirit Airlines. And he's like, I'll fly Spirit. And by the way, I don't know how long ago this interview was, but there's never been a time in the past where Spirit was like a economy luxury. There's never been a JetBlue.
No. Well, here, I mean, I might say, because he said, if it gets me from point A to point B, which is that wasn't Southwest this winter. I don't know. I might say, Chad, spring for the United. Maybe just, coach, that's fine. Not even first class, but just me. But that's the point. It's not about making enough money to fly private for him. I just love that.
Well, and I also like the very base utility. I need to go from point A to point B. He is down to what does the thing I'm paying for actually do for me?
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on to say that especially athletes, what you want to do is make your name bigger than anything that you could purchase. And
he goes on, he says a little bit more, play that next 5 or 6 seconds.
Right before we go to that, what I wanted to mention is this is us in the marketplace. Whether you're a business owner, you're an executive, etc., your offer to your enterprise is the value that you bring. It is not the car you drive to work. It is not the neighborhood you live in. It is, can you do the things that people, if they're your customers as a business owner, can your team execute and do what they're supposed to do and take care of the customer and lower their costs and give them the value? That's it. For the company you work for, do you work well with teams? Do you attract people that are quality to the enterprise? Do you get the job done? And does your team get the job done it's supposed to be done? That is what we should have a reputation for. Not the worn catcher's mitt leather that the seats are made out of, which is cool. But you pay a lot for it, and he's making a fine point here. Let's hit some next
Paul,
chunk.
we're going to have to go back to a new offer, which is a luxury car made from the used leather mitts of retired Major League Baseball players. You can sit in Nomar Garcia Parra's glove. Ooh.
Okay. Ooh.
All right.
Yeah, actually, not only do I like that, but then I think we could maybe have other parts of the car made from other used things.
I like it.
It's like a drivetrain.
I'm scared of what you're going to say next, but I like it.
If you guys would like to hear what I was going to say, but didn't say it because of Corey, put down in the comments, I want to hear what Paul had to say, and I'll write it in there.
Direct message you.
Oh, no, I'm putting it out on the internet for everybody to see.
I like this new system. I really like this system.
This is going to work good, Corey. I'm going to be in the comments full time with people going, what was it? Okay, here's our next clip.
Wow. My name itself, Ochocinco at one point, even still to this day, is bigger than, why am I driving a Ferrari? Why am I driving a Rolls Royce and I'm Ocho? Oh, we talk about jewelry and watches and chains. Never bought real anything when I was playing. Never. What was the point? I went to Claire's.
Yes.
Oh, wait. This is my favorite.
Literally, when he was playing. So this was, I think I was maybe I was early in college. I was watching with my roommate. Well, best friend, still the best man at my wedding to this day. And I remember sitting there in our living room with him, watching Ochocinco, and he had these giant diamond-looking earrings on the dress to play football, he's running around. And he was interviewed on the side. There was this little cutaway during the game, and he was like, "No, I went to Claire's." And I think they literally had this segment where they had filmed him walking into Claire's and buying them. So he's like, "What's it all for? What's the point? You all think it's real anyway, so why?"
Get him!
It was so great. I can
And-
remember that a decade ago. Yeah.
But think about that is a real hilarious comment in the moment. But how many people do you know who are walking around with something today? And this is the key, is that the something we're walking around with that we don't think anything of, we're like, hey, it's great that we have it. Right? Like
Right.
I'm blessed to be able to have this ring or this watch or whatever those things are. And yet literally you are buying things. This is what the guy who wrote A Psychology of Money, Merton Mousel. Can you pull that
Housel.
up?
Morgan Housel.
Morgan
Yeah.
Housel. So
I thought you were going Burt Malkiel like way back in the day. I was like, oh,
not going that deep.
Morgan.
But he talked about the fact that when we buy something that is a status-based thing, what we think is other people are going to think we're successful because we have it. And I will say there is a difference. I want to share just from my heart. At one point, years ago, I was the guy who looked a certain way. I had the European import sports car, had the house that looked a certain way, the office that looked a certain way. I dressed a certain way all the time. And it was all about maintaining this image. And we do those things because we want people to think that we're successful because, say, we showed them the car or we showed them whatever. But if you think about what you think about when you see somebody in a Ferrari, you don't even think that you think they're successful. Think about your own internal thoughts. What goes on between your ears is some version of, if I had that, people would say I'm successful. That is all anybody says to themselves. When we go out and get a cool thing or a killer watch or whatever, we think other people are thinking we're successful, and all they're thinking is, if I had that, people would think I'm successful.
Yeah.
And it is literally a loop.
And Chad's point, is that he had already gotten so successful that his name was
Ocho.
more valuable than...
He goes by Ocho. We're calling him Ocho.
Yeah.
The rest of Chad cannot be. Chad is. We're dead naming him. We can't
Chad to
dead
his
name
friends.
Ochocinco.
Chad to his best pals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ocho's saying, like, why am I buying that $50,000 watch when my name is worth more than that anyway? I think he has some more. It just gets better and better. I think we should play some more.
We're going to go back into it, but this is the thing I wanted to share that was a little bit of mine. I almost got off on track. Is that I now drive, if you guys don't know, like I live on 5 acres. I just as soon cut wood. We're going to do some videos out here for everybody so y'all can just see the environment that I'm in daily, and do some stuff from Corey and Jeff in the future. But it's this idea that, like, I walk outside here and I can split wood. Right outside my office, I've got a side-by-side parked. It's all I can do to not get out of the shirt, get on a t-shirt, and get outside on the property doing something on a daily basis. But when I go to church and I drive the Ford Explorer that I tow behind the RV for our long RV trips, and I'm wearing jeans and like a regular shirt, I don't think there's anybody at church, I've been going to church for the last 5.5 years, except for my CPA that goes to the same church, that has any idea how much money we make. And I will say, from a personal perspective, because I don't want to take this lightly, I went through the stage where I was very much looked high status from the outside to the point where I said, nope, I'm pulling it all back in. We're going to take really good care of the finances of our household. And I realized there's a bunch of stuff I don't care about that I thought I needed to care about because of my career. If any of you think of doing what Ochocinco's done, there is something missing. When you've gone from being a high status person who kind of announced your status in the car you drove up into the place, or what you were wearing, or what was on your wrist, it is more effort to bring enough value to people that they will engage you like you're a high value, important person that rolled up in the Bentley, but only because of how you interacted and cared for people. But it is different. The new people come to church, and when I was in the old way of being, a new person that came to church would know that I owned a financial firm, word would get around, and now I just show up like a regular guy. It is a different kind of life, but it also puts you in a position that the environment doesn't put pressure on you to spend money anymore.
Right.
So,
Paul, I think about conversations we had with advisors in the firm, and we were recruiting a bunch of advisors at one point where, they thought they needed to have the nice car. And it was just like asking, well, you drive to the office, they come and see you here at the office. Like, when do they actually ever see your car? When do you, so, for most of us, if you think you're doing it as a status symbol, ask yourself, do the people that you want to impress actually ever see it in the first place? Like, the only one I could really think of that could make a difference is maybe if you're a realtor and you're taking people around all the time and you want to have a nice car. But consider that maybe it helps. Maybe it promotes this business of success and wonderfulness, but maybe your client gets in the car and they're thinking, oh, they really do have to sell me this house today to avoid this car. Like, you don't know. You can't control what the other person's thinking.
Think about it. If that was your strategy and you have an Audi A8 with a $1,500 a month lease, you definitely paid more than you should have through 2020 and 2021 because you weren't having people in your car anyway. Like that was not that wasn't as useful. But that's the thing, is that how deep is the value? That's the question. If they don't see the car, they're not going to see the car. If it's just been the habit that you've always driven a nice car because you were in sales, but now you're the president of an organization, you work in the big corner office, you never leave the office during the day. Now it might be time to go, wait a second, why am I still paying $1,500 a month on a lease every 2 years instead of just buying a normal car? Food for thought. Let's get back to it here.
So all you do
yes, for what? What am I doing it for? The women don't deal with you anyway because of who you are.
Right.
And then the other women who really doing their homework don't Google how much you're making already.
Right.
Why am I buying a $50,000 watch?
Now
right? If they want you for your money, they already knew how much. You don't have to spend it on something ahead of time to prove to them they're right. They already know they're right. So what's this?
Well, and I'll give you so now from a dating perspective, if you're a young, high earning professional or recently divorced or anything like that, like there's potential attraction there that you can produce with the opposite sex. But the drawback is, at least what I hear and what he says, is I want the women that are smart enough to know that buying the flashy watch isn't the move. The ones who know to research my net worth and what my contract is, because they're going to look past me drive. I think it was Emmitt Smith won the Super Bowl twice before he stopped driving that little 2-door Honda sports car, the CRX. Nice. It used to be manufactured. It's like the people who you care about interacting with and care about interacting with you, he's talking about women, but I think it works equally in business. If people can't do the research, like, would you deal with a financial advisor because of a slamming watch, or would you rather have one that has nearly 300 podcast episodes? You decide. I'd rather spend my money on this podcast than a Rolex. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear the last of this. Close her out.
$80,000 watch. What time is it, real quick, please?
It's 20 minutes to 4.
How much that cost me?
Didn't cost you nothing.
How much that cost me? I like that he doesn't even have time to put all of the grammatically correct words in the sentence. How much that cost me? And he's right. Free. I didn't need a watch. Total utility.
Time is free. So what I'm paying for?
Right.
For what? I'm Ocho. What's the point?
Right.
Ocho.
There's nothing I can buy that's bigger than my name alone. So it made no sense. But everybody's caught up in image and looking a certain way and being rich. It's me. It's pointless. You know how hard it is to live like that all the time, consistently, and be fly every day?
Yeah.
Jewelry and listen, eras of rappers. Think about the era before us.
Right.
Everybody was flashy, stunned. And after 10 years, what happens?
They ain't flashy, they ain't stuff.
No, you can't. It's impossible to sustain.
Right.
It's impossible. People, social media. Well, if I spin this bag, I'm gonna just go make it back.
No.
I do love that.
I love that. Oh.
I gotta spend money to make money. Now here's the thing, and this is tough because you got to really think about it. I've been a business owner since my early 20s, And I can't tell you how many guys looked like they were going to shoot the moon out and had that attitude. Oh, I just got to spend more money on my business to make more money. And I know some of these guys, and they've been at it 20 years. And they're still not just earning the super consistent income they want, a satisfied life, all of that, because they bought into that fallacy of, I'll go ahead and spend a bag and I can make a bag tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's that influencer culture that on social media now, where you don't know if they own that house or that car. They probably rented it or it's someone else's. Like you have just no idea what evidence they're giving you of what they're doing is successful. If their whole business plan is be amazing on social media so you can make money being amazing on social media, something's going to fall out the bottom so fast.
That's right. But that's just it, is they're not giving. I mean, we've talked about is like the influencers that give financial advice, etc., but they also give this life advice, and a lot of it is like, be flashy, be cool. And as we talked about, like Corey and I have been talking about doing a little more like lifestyle stuff where they see more of the personal side of us. But I'm going to tell y'all right now, it ain't flash. It is fun as you can imagine living our lives. I love it. But it ain't going to be flashy, and it's not going to be the one where you go, hey, look at this, these dollars on the hood of a Corvette or whatever. I mean,
this video of me doing some cooking, it might be flashy.
Dude,
it might be. Sorry.
I've eaten your cooking. It is amazing.
It ain't like you think.
No.
And people, they think the cure and the fix for the problem is, well, give me more money, I'm gonna be all right. Well, the more you make, the more you spend.
Right.
If you have no discipline and no structure.
Yes, absolutely.
Every time.
Yes.
Every time. Well, just give me more and more. No, the more you get, the more you're going to spend. And people ain't going to listen because we are caught up in looking a certain way, living a certain way, trying to appease others who don't really care nothing about you.
Yeah.
Just
Lifestyle addiction. That is lifestyle addiction, that we get into spinning it. We don't think about it anymore. As he put, like, I love that distinction that he mentioned earlier. Like, you can't stay fly the rest of your life. And don't
sustain it. Yeah.
And by the way, have you ever seen the married couples where rarely do you see both do it, but I've often seen people in their 50s and they're still trying some version of, I'm always going to look perfectly together. It might be the husband, it might be the wife. And when you're in your 50s and always trying to look to the nines like that, it is hard. And I've seen, like, those people don't look relaxed. Yeah. They don't seem like they can let stuff roll off their back. Why? All this cognitive load of keeping up all the appearances that they've done maybe so far in their life, the last 20 years. It makes it, the longer you go in life, spending in a way that only how other people think of you is the only utility in it, it gets real hard later. But nobody tells you that. You know why? Because everybody who's smart enough to figure it out has a pretty good life in their 50s, not playing that game anymore. And could you imagine something more wildly offensive than a 50-some-year-old friend of you coming up to you and like, this car isn't going to matter in 20 years, that watch isn't going to matter in 20 years, you living in a house with 2,000 more square foot and the waterfall, that's not going to make the difference. What's going to make the difference is your ability to have enough money to live the rest of your life. They may just make somebody mad, even a well-liked 55-year-old trying to wrap their arm around you and give you some advice.
Now, just for the record, like, look at Chad. Like, I don't think he got that jacket. Sorry, Ocho. I don't think he got that jacket at Walmart. Like, I could be wrong, but right. So it's not like he's got $20, pants on. Like he probably is wearing.
He's wearing shorts actually right now.
But he's got like capri kind of pants. He's got like high water ankle.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they're pricey. Don't get me wrong.
Right. No, but it's hitting for relative to the amount of money he makes. Like, he's hitting this consistent low enough percentage that constantly buying $50,000 watches would not fit inside of, and he's living within that certain utility band for himself. Like, he likes the clothes, he wants to feel like, we all want to look a certain way. The point is inside of his lifestyle budget and that he likes, not just for someone else.
Amen.
Say, oh, I got it.
Wow.
Well, I got it too, and I had it for almost 30 years. I done saved, what, 83% of my salary. I don't need validation from nobody on the outside. That's another downfall. In society, we always need validation and acceptance from others. Don't try to live a lifestyle that you know you can't afford.
Right.
You can't do that.
And I would add something to his that's just kind of from Corey and I, is to don't live a lifestyle that you can't afford forever. Think about that again for a second. Don't live a lifestyle you can't afford forever. So that means if your lifestyle right now is you and your family spending $300,000 a year, then there needs to be a strategy for what are you going to do that's going to put you in the position that you can accumulate $7.5 million of capital at work outside of homes, outside of toys, and have that spin off $300,000 a year to pay the bills. You see, if you don't have a strategy in place that's going to give you the ability to do that, then you are living in a situation that you can't afford for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And then I would say it'd probably be super helpful for most people if they just said, no, like right now from 40 to 50, I'm going to live this larger lifestyle for whatever reason. And then I'm going to trim it back. That will be the hardest thing you ever actually do. That's going to be a lot like somebody saying, I'm going to go ahead and from age 40 to 50, I'm going to let myself get up to like 350. That's it. Nothing, no heavier than that. And then from 50 to 60, I'm going to lose all that extra weight that I put on. You could do that. It would be better than living that way and saying, I'm going to stay this big the rest of my life. But that 50 to 60 will be extraordinarily difficult. And I would offer maybe as difficult in going from spending $300,000 a year to say 120. That's just, I only want $3 million, but I want to live a really big age 40 to 60. Now, doesn't that sound ridiculous, Corey, for me to even say it?
It does, right. No one's going to plan on that.
Nobody does. For most people, the spending that we do, the way that we interact with others, the way we build our career, our personal identity, lots of it happens by default, not by design. So if you're listening to this and you're in a position where you're like, I'd much rather mine be by design, and you're not already a client of ours, like just reach out. You can email us at info@sfgway, like Sound Financial Group, sfgway.com. And we'd be happy to have a chat with you. It's no obligation. See if it's a fit and if we should talk again. But if it's not us, like get some help. Get somebody that will give you that ability to create some baffle between what happens in the media about what to do with your money, both personal spending and what to do with the finances, so that you have somebody to bounce it off of. Because having somebody that knows you and your family, who's journeying through life with you, will put you in the best possible position to maybe pull an Ochocinco and be able to live differently than everybody else does today, so you can live differently than everybody else does in the future. And in an industry where most careers are 3.5 years and bankruptcies are more common than, I don't know. I see me like bankruptcies happen to former NFL players as often as there's a sack on the field. And even with that knowledge, there's nothing happening to change that stat. What we need to do is that in our careers, well, they might not last 3.5 years, they might last 30. But you could just as easily get out of your 30-year career and be no better off than an NFL guy that worked 3.5 years, because we didn't build your balance sheet enough in that time. And that means saying no to a lot of things. It means building your identity and working on your career. And it means orchestrating all of life's commitments. It is not easy, but that is why when we talk about the stats in the newspapers, et cetera, where it looks like 1% of America is kind of on track to be able to retire, really, with enough money.
This is why anybody listening, and whether if you know an NFL player or if you are one, you should give us a call and have a chat. And I mean, it's a funny thing to say for a podcast, but I'm serious, because we're outside of that world. And as we've already shown, we don't really care that much that you're playing in the NFL. So,
in fact,
we're not going to.
If you work with me, I'm probably going to make you mad, because I won't know any of your friends. I won't know what you did last week. I'm not going to compliment you. I won't know who won your game.
But we will care very deeply about helping you make your future work out.
I'm telling you,
that's the difference.
Like jump in front of a bullet to make sure your future works out, including willing to confront you. And if you're one of those people that's either high income, or maybe you just had a breakthrough, kind of like an NFL player, like they get a breakthrough income year, they hope to continue. If you're in that and you want some help, we may not be the right help for you, but be diligent about getting that help, because it takes something to be able to stand differently than everybody else, especially when, like Ocho says, like, you're trying to show people that you got it. He says, I've had it for 30 years. Like, that's how you do it. And we'd much rather you guys have it than leave anybody on the impression you have it. And I'll tell you the biggest, like, absolute brag. And it'll be a humble brag, and it's going to be beautiful. And I promise y'all this is going to be in your future. And this is where I'm going to end. One day, if you're listening to this podcast, one day, in all likelihood, unlike most of Americans, you'll be in a position where you're going to be able to have enough capital to produce enough income for your needs for the rest of your life. That's going to be a very, very small percentage of people out there. But that's why, as Corey said at the beginning, this is a fun one. Send it to somebody you know, like, and trust. They didn't send it to you, if you're listening to this now, because they think you spend too much money. Just because Corey and I are hilarious. But if you don't have that strategy in place, if you don't have a way that you know one day you're going to have enough money, then you're just kind of headed to the wood chipper. Now, the wood chipper is not an actual wood chipper. It's just society's indifference. The doctor's indifference when you need to pay for the medical treatment. The mortgage company's indifference, or the property tax people indifference of you being able to pay them or not. Yeah, I'd much rather you take a lot of care now, have that all squared away, take a bunch of time, maybe change some spending habits.
It's an emotional topic. It gets, as you all know, Paul's a crier, and it just really gets him going.
No, it was in the back of my throat. My eyes are watering because I tried to ignore the tickle and end the podcast.
This is where the podcast only version just does not do it justice. You gotta get a video.
Have you ever tried to talk through a throat tickle? That is the worst thing I've ever done. I did it all for you guys. I tried to make it work. I'm going to try and land this. We're not going to edit this out. I'm going to leave it. I think. But it does look like, I don't know. What does somebody look like after they just did a bunch of drugs? I'm glad I was on camera the whole time, because I think this is what you look like when you do a bunch of drugs. Somebody put that in the comments. Let us know if this is what you look like after you do a bunch of drugs. So no clip, no edit, Miranda. We got to leave the whole thing in, because if you leave me at the end looking like this with the coughing, although turn the coughing down, that's got to be bad. I don't
or
want
if
to block
we have
people's
edited
eardrums.
it out, then put in the comments why you think Paul looks like he does.
Thanks. All right, Corey, I'm going to land this thing. Gosh bless it. I'm sorry, guys. If you've been sitting in your car getting ready to go in the office, you just apologize for being late to the meeting. Let them know your favorite podcasters literally had a nearly choked to death right on the show. But here's the thing. If you don't have help, if you don't have somebody being in the conversations with, if you don't have somebody helping you plan out that strategy for the future and double checking yourself, then you might still make it and have enough money, but you won't know it till you get there. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest comforts, you see how relaxed that dude is when he says, I already got it. Like, he's still doing stuff for money, I'm sure, but he ain't worried about it. And that's what we'd love for all of you listening, even if you're not clients of ours. Just that you be in a position where you worry less about money, and you moving forward in life with an assured path, high probability that you're going to be financially independent, as opposed to, it's going to get a few more raises, then I'm going to cut this, and I hope I get the friends through college. No, a pragmatic plan to be able to get you to the future that you want to have. So that one day you could be talking to some younger person who says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you can sit back in the chair like that and say, no, what you got to do is bring enough value to your employer, bring enough value to your customers, and let your identity and who you are be what's valuable, not the stuff you buy. And with that, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on social media. Be sure to comment below, say really nice things about Corey. And if you want to, we're thinking about starting one of those Patreons just for the beard. So let us know, would you give monthly to the beard if the beard had its own Patreon? And with that, we hope that this episode has been a contribution to all of you being able to design and build a good life.